Can I ask another question? I do love contrast enough that, and I do take the attitude of bring it on. So I actually really appreciate negative emotion when it is evoked within contrast.
Well, what's the difference? Here's a good question. So in the early days, Jerry and Esther, we encouraged them to play with us in any way they could think of. So they went and got lost out in the city of Phoenix, and their friends hid somewhere, and the game was Jerry and Esther would utilize Abraham to find these friends. And it was a huge, huge area from Scottsdale all the way across, 50 miles in all directions was where the game was to be played. And Esther found that she could feel an aversion to going that way or an impulse to go that way, but it's really a very small difference whether you're feeling the aversion to go that way or the impulse to go that way.
Right.
In other words, it all ended up in them going that way.
Right.
And eventually they found them, 14 Snicker bars and 3 tanks of gas later. They found them. Esther said, "This will not be a game we will play again." The sun was coming up, and they started just after the sun went down. In other words, it was a long exploration into the talents of Abraham. And when they found them, they said, "Well, first we went to the dumpster behind the Mountain Shadows Resort," and their friend said, "We were there.
Yeah.
But we felt like we should move somewhere else." So all night they've been chasing them. They went there, and they went there, and they went there, and they went there, and they went there. But the point that we're making with the story is that there was really a strong feeling of not going that way, but going that way. It was before Esther was receiving us verbally. She was just feeling impulse. And so she would say, "Well, it's not that way, it's that way."
Well, I guess what I was trying to explain, and I know you felt me, and I felt your answer in that why go when you can feel. The reason I love the contrast of my experiences when they come to me, it's like it's another red flag of something I can identify to get me into the vortex, so I can clear it.
Yes. So what is a red flag? A red flag is awareness of something unwanted. And what does it always mean? Something wanted just got queued up in a stronger way.
Exactly.
What else does a red flag mean? Don't go that way.
Yes.
But red flag also means that's not the way. And if that's not the way, then that must be, or something else must be. So a red flag, Esther had this identical conversation with us a few days ago where she was feeling guilty about red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And we were explaining to her that the red flag just means, hold on. There's a solution, and you aren't in vibrational proximity to the solution yet. But don't move toward the red flag. At least just hold where you are. And it also makes you aware, in other words, does a red flag, we'll ask you this, does a red flag make you more solution-pointed?
Yes.
When you feel a red flag, doesn't it make you look for the solution more?
And that's what I really appreciate about the red flag. I don't have to go to the red flag. I love the practice of massaging myself into the vortex with the red flag. So I'll be looking at something that's happening in my life, and the moment the emotion is big enough, I realize that my higher self is seeing it so much different than I am, that all I have to do is realize that the difference is there, and all I have to do is massage it just a little bit around.
Well stated.
And it's such a quick transition. It's like, okay, well, and it's words.
I want to say to you that the vitality that is present within you, what you're doing is really working well for you. And we would far, far, far rather that you be on this sort of edgy place. You called yourself a cliff jumper.
Yes.
But we're certain that you never jump off a cliff without being sure that you can fly.
That's it.
We can feel that from you. We can feel that from you powerfully. And and it is so much more refreshing to feel this vital and alive than to feel relaxed and calm.
Yeah.
Really. In other words, and the thing that you are helping us to say, and you are really articulating it magnificently, is that you get to choose. In other words, you can feel if it gets going a little too fast, you can ratchet it back. But you really do. You see, what's happened with you is you are understanding that you are the creator of your experience, and the contrast doesn't feel like unwanted and wanted. The contrast feels like variety from which you are molding the clay.
Yes.
This is exactly the way you intended to feel as you made the decision to come forth into this physical body.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
So you chickened out, huh? You raised your hand and pulled it back. We want you. Pick me, don't pick me.